Looking at my desk, making sure everything is in order, somewhat presentable. I'm not a Hollywood production, and I'm certainly not AI. Hey everybody, I am Daddy Sam, and this is episode 62 of A Touch of Gay podcast for the 7th of June, 2026. And today we're talking about lots of different pride. Lots of different pride. And by that I mean some different angles, right? You're going to hear about pride all month. So why shouldn't I just add to the pile? And this is, of course, my weekly check-in with you, where I like to share what's going on at my kitchen table, even though this is actually my desk. Used to be my kitchen table, though. And also share about what's going on at the kitchen table of the LGBTQ plus fishbowl that I find myself in. And as always, I like to start with our daily inspiration, which comes directly from our social media channels. A Touch of Gay Pod is the handle on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do X because it's a mass conspiracy to turn the world into a big ball of mush. Yeah, that. And today, our inspiration is simply this: pride is good. Now, that seems really simple, right? I really want to get into the definition of it because every month when we do Pride, the religious right and other people out there who are not part of our community always like to throw water on pride. Why do they need to have that? Pride is hubris. Pride is a sin, and blah, 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 blah. So let's just talk about the definition of pride, and I have some ideas about it myself. Pride is a primary emotion characterized by a sense of security with one's identity, performance, and/or accomplishments. Now, there are a couple of different contexts for pride. One is the one that I just mentioned. The other one is a character defect where one is letting their pride get out of control or letting their pride get in the way. This is when ego and arrogance really sort of amplify that concept of pride, right? And we all know people like that. We've all had that same thing go on, I think, in various parts of our lives where we just can't admit we were wrong, or we just can't admit that we're less than, or that our shit doesn't stink. Fill in the blank. You know where I'm going with that. To get more to my point of what I'm talking about today, pride is also sometimes considered the opposite of shame. And it is. It is the opposite of shame. And that's important to me because so many of us who grew up gay, lesbian, or one of the other shades of our rainbow were brought up with a lot of shame about who we are, what we're about, what we like, who we love, all of that. And a lot of us still carry that with us today. We might have come out, we might be living out loud, we might be very involved in our community, we might be popular, and we might even be a leader in our community. Yet, we all still have just a little bit of that shame that we are programmed with, and some of us internalize it and turn it back on ourselves. And I'm talking about little things like the sex we might enjoy. We call it dirty. Is it? Or we may want to walk down the street and hold hands with our partner, but we're embarrassed sometimes to do that. That's shame creeping in. Now, obviously, there's self-preservation because there are some times and places where that might not be a safe thing to do, quite literally. The context of pride and the absence of shame, I think, is a good sort of prism to look at for all of us during this month. Having pride is having confidence in who we are, being out loud and in the open, and depending on how out loud and in the open we are, being without shame about it. We don't have to apologize for who we are. We don't owe people an explanation about who we are. We run into a lot of people sometimes in the world that corner us in this conversation where they want us to justify our sexuality or our kinks or the things we do in our community. And we don't owe that to anyone. If we lead by example, if we do it confidently, and we do it in a way that is positive, we should be able to have pride in that. So that is my little spiel on pride. But don't worry, we're going to talk about it some more as we go in. But first, I want to check in just a little bit. Now, in the beginning of our podcast, I was doing a lot of stories about the shit show. And by that, I mean what's going on out there in the world and all of what's coming from Washington. I don't mention the names because they don't deserve it, but you know what I'm talking about. And in our previous episodes, we got detailed about the daily blows, the daily stories of what's happening with the Supreme Court, what new directives have come down, how our community is being harmed, maybe some victories. And quite honestly, after a year of that, I've gotten tired of the blow by blow, play by play. If you want that, there are plenty of other podcasts. There are plenty of other news sources in which to go and feed on that. And because I want to offer something positive for our community, I've been sort of staying away from that. And I've been doing that in my own personal life as well. And not to say I'm ignoring the news and I'm not paying attention to what's going on. I'm very well aware of what's going on. I spend at least an hour a day soaking in the major headlines in the news and the little things that are happening around our community relative to the shit show. But I'm not bringing it to you every week, and I'm trying not to dwell on it every day, because my reality is, my level of acceptance is that there's really nothing I can do about it. I can't change it, right? I can vote every 2 years, but that's really the only tangible thing that I have in my arsenal. Yes, I could go protest. Yes, I have this podcast where I can inform people about certain things. But beyond that, in my daily life, I have to live. I have to be here and do what's in front of me for my community. I have to go out and participate and be a loving individual and be a positive force in the people's lives that are around me. That's the best thing I can do to help my community and the people that I love get through this time, and to help myself, because it gets me out of that worry and the doom when I get to interact with people and live, because any one of us could wake up dead tomorrow. Pardon the pun. Of course, if we're dead, we're not going to wake up. But you get what I'm saying, right? We don't know when life is going to end for us. So why not live today the best life that we can? And so part of me just really enjoys the simple things in life. I live in a neighborhood in downtown Phoenix, Arizona, and there's a project that's been going on for the last month or so across the way, and I enjoy watching it. This is a parking garage that is being developed and built, and it's prefabricated. So a company somewhere else in town is making these big, giant concrete pieces. They're trucking them in one at a time in a big, giant crane, lifting them off the trucks, putting them on the ground, standing them up, putting them together. It's like a giant erector set. And I have to tell you, the little kid in me has been fascinated. I've been enthralled watching this thing go up. And I've gotten a lot of joy out of just walking down the street and watching what they do during my breaks at work, after work, before work, whenever. And I got to be honest, some of the guys working on this project aren't too bad on the eyes either. You know, some big construction daddies that are in those high level construction jobs, right? They're like a higher tier or something like that. Welders, steel workers, all of that. But so I'm just sharing that with you because we have to have little things in life that allow us to have joy and enjoyment beyond those things out there that are part of the shit show. So if you're wondering why I haven't been bringing that to you a lot in the last several months, that's one of the reasons. And if you want that, there's plenty of other places to get it. My main piece that I want to talk about today is some wisdom from Brian Hetler. Now, Brian, he ran at IML just a couple of weeks ago. He, a big, huge guy. He had 2 titles going into this, and we've talked about him on the podcast before, and I'd never met him in person until we were at IML. I realized, oh my God, this guy's like 7 feet tall. Now I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I could like walk right up to him. I'm 5'8". I could like almost walk right up to him and put my face straight in his armpit without having to readjust my height, if that gives you an indicator. But from the pictures, I just had never seen. And then when I'm seeing him in person, I had to go up and tell him, oh man, you're huge. By the way, I'm Sam. So we had a quick little conversation. So I've met him. I don't know him really well, but I do follow him on social media. And he has a lengthy post about Pride Month and what Pride means to him and how he operates in this world. And I want to share with you an excerpt of exactly what he said. And his Instagram is Midasheart. You can follow him there. That's on the screen if you're watching. It's in the show notes if you're listening to us on a podcast. But let me read to you some of what he said, because he encapsulates, I think, not only the change of our younger generations coming up, what they're bringing to our community, but I think it's really ripe for the times that we're in right now. We are in a time where the shit show is swirling around us. We are being pushed backwards on our march toward equality and all of that with the rest of the world. And I think he's got it. I think he's got his finger on the button. So let me read. Happy Pride. Not the corporate pride, not the sanitized pride, not the pride that fits neatly into a sponsorship deck or sits politely on a panel discussion while everyone nods at each other and pretends they aren't terrified of being disliked. I mean a loud pride, the inconvenient pride, the pride that shows up wearing 6 pounds of leather, glitter in places glitter was never meant to go, and enough confidence to make a room full of strangers uncomfortable. The pride that shit up. The pride that shit up. Brian, I love it. And he closes, and I'm skipping about 3 pages in what you can find online of his entire post. Wear the thing, sing the song, dance badly, start a fundraiser, ask for the $5, get on the microphone, wave the flag, make the sign, throw the party, build the organization, join the board, volunteer for the shift, tell the truth, love your people loudly, be embarrassingly enthusiastic about making the world better. That makes me emotional. I cry at weddings. What can I tell you? Yeah, the pride that shit up. Thank you so much, Brian, for that. Find him on social media. Instagram is probably the first place you can start, and you can see all of his pictures. He's an amazing person. And when you see his pictures, it fits exactly what he said. Glitter in places that glitter shouldn't be. That's our wisdom for the day from Brian. And it's an event. Atlanta Leather Pride is coming up just next month, July 24th through the 25th at the Atlanta Eagle. This is more of a traditional leather contest weekend down in the South at the historic Atlanta Eagle. Applications are now open if you want to compete down there. I don't know what all of the requirements are. You'll have to go and check that out with them. Their website is on the screen. It's in the show notes if you're listening to us. This is a focused celebration of leather culture and community standards. So it sounds a little bit more straight-laced when it comes to leather, maybe old guard, old school. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but this is a contest that sends a title to the big contest in Chicago every year. And they've always got a really good looking guy too. So I highly suggest you check this out if you're down in the South or if you're looking for a travel opportunity at the end of July. It shouldn't be hot at all, not in Atlanta. Shouldn't be humid either. So, wear lots of leather, full cow. Have fun with that. And that's all I got for you today. It's a bit of a short episode. I have been just really, really busy in my personal life. And besides walking down the block and looking at a big construction project with men crawling all over concrete pieces, I have just been doing the deal. Getting back to the grind after being gone for a week to IML. It's sometimes harder than it sounds. And pride, I talked about it a little bit last week. Our Pride Festival here in Phoenix, Arizona is in question this year because our Pride organization just filed for bankruptcy. And, it goes to this idea of we need a pride that shit up. The pride that we have had here in Arizona for the past decade, as long as I can remember, is the absolute opposite of that. They've been the straight-laced people on the panel smiling at each other and pinwheels and flags and lots of food trucks. They lost the plot and, sounds like they may have lost the game as well. It's time that we all stand up and offer up a pride that shit up and get back to the core reason why we have pride and just have fun. Have fun, be loud, and let them know that we are not going to take the shit show anymore. Our website at touchofgay.com, you can find us on all of the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Threads, and the Blue Sky at Touch of Gay Pod. And wherever you find your podcast, you can see on our screen right there all the little pretty chiclet colors, all the big major platforms, A Touch of Gay Pod, and of course YouTube, which is the primary place. It drops every Sunday on the podcast platforms and sometimes a day or two early on YouTube. So you can see me. And if you are watching YouTube, you can see that today I'm wearing my bulldog harness and my armbands from Mr. S Leather, one of my favorites. This is actually a replacement because I had left this in a gym bag in the back seat of my truck. And one day I came out to go to work in the morning and the back window was broken out of my truck and somebody had stolen the gym bag with this leather harness. And that was really all that was in the bag aside from some dirty rags and some lube, if you know what I'm saying. It was my go bag. So maybe they thought they were going to get some expensive shoes or something like that when they broke the window, but they ended up probably getting something they had no idea what was it for, or ick, what's all this? I had to buy a new one. And so it's a replacement of the one that I lost. And luckily, Mr. S Leather really never changes anything. So I could go 2 or 3 years later and get something that still matches the armbands that I bought the first time. But I digress. One last thing I do want to share with you. If you like streaming radio, gayphx.com is a streaming radio station that plays 24/7. They air our show every Monday at 10 a.m. And they also play reruns of our show every other weekday at 10 a.m. They are based in Phoenix, but they play music, they have interviews, they have other content, news, and lots of fun stuff. A lot of original music too that is part of our community. And so I highly suggest you check them out, gayphx.com. And that's it. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see our latest episode right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right below that on that big round logo. And if you're on the podcast, please subscribe there. Either way, stay tuned.